I didn't see you there. Welcome back, all you guys and ghouls. Tonight we're going to be talking about something extra special. As the weather outside starts to drop in temperature, and the leaves start to change those beautiful colors and fall to the ground, you know it's the best time of the year. So sit back, relax, cuddle up, and grab a cup of your favorite hot beverage. Tonight we're going to be talking about 10 of the most underrated Halloween films. All of the films I'm going to be talking about tonight take place on or around Halloween, or have Halloween as a major plot point in their story. I'm going to start things off with an honorable mention, which is the 2009 remake of Night of the Demons. This is a remake of the 1988 film with the same title, about a bunch of teenagers that go into an abandoned house and throw a Halloween party, and then encounter some demons and stuff goes bad. This was a movie that I rented when Redbox was really big, before streaming was what it is today, and I blind rented it from Redbox, and I really enjoyed it. I will admit that as I've watched it in later years, it doesn't hold up as well as I thought that it did. But it's a pretty solid remake if you go in understanding it's not going to have the 80s charm, it's not going to have the 80s cheese, and you're just basically going to get a bunch of no-name actors with a few other celebrities thrown in there like Shannon and Elizabeth, playing teenagers at a Halloween party getting killed off by demons. There's some great practical effects work in there, and there's some good makeup, and it's got a great atmosphere. It's got some cool setting and a haunted house on a hill in the middle of Halloween night, and so going with your expectations pretty low. I think it's actually a pretty solid Halloween film to get you in the spirit, and no one ever really talks about it, but I do definitely think it deserves a watch. And kicking off this list at number 10 is Hubie Halloween. And before you stop watching this video, I understand you probably hate this film, and you probably hate Adam Sandler for making this film, but Hubie Halloween is actually a pretty great film to put on to get into the Halloween spirit. And that's exactly what this list is about. Halloween films that you can put on that are not your typical Halloween films, that are very underrated and underappreciated, but really grasp that Halloween atmosphere and tone and can give you a fun night either with comedy or some scares and just get you in the spirit, kick off the season right. And Hubie Halloween does that actually very well. Filmed in Massachusetts on location, you can tell with the leaves and the town and some of the old houses and the streets just littered with Halloween decorations, including Hubie's house, which is absolutely smothered in Halloween decorations. And I understand that just throwing a bunch of decorations to the house doesn't make for a good Halloween film, but this one really has a tone and atmosphere. There's something about being shot on location and actually showing people walking up and down real streets, real neighborhoods that just grabs my attention and really sets me in the right mood for the Halloween atmosphere and the Halloween time of year. So for me personally, if you watch this channel long enough, you'll understand that this does it for me more than other things that films might do, giving me a good location and a really just real fall leaves and real towns with Halloween decorations and parties and festivals. Those kind of things put me in the Halloween spirit more than some other films do. And there's also actually a pretty decent mystery here. I think Adam Sandler's performance is pretty solid across the board. Yes, the voice he does is incredibly annoying, and I understand it. I wish he didn't do it. But besides that voice, I think all of the side characters here actually have more to do than they usually do, and I like a lot of them. I think they're pretty funny. Of course, he crams in a relationship that probably would never happen in real life into the movie, but I honestly enjoyed the mystery, and it's a fun time. Again, this is one of those movies that you could put on while you're carving pumpkins, put on when you're just getting into October and you're decorating. It's the perfect background decorating movie for me. If you haven't seen it, give it a chance and really pay attention to the setting. Try to get past Adam Sandler's annoying voice and just let yourself let go, have fun, and just pay attention to the beautiful setting and think about if you were there in these streets and you actually could see these trick-or-treaters in Massachusetts, and hopefully it'll come across a little better than you either thought it did or was the first time. And if you haven't seen it, like I said, give it a chance. At number 9 on the list is a film I've never heard anyone talk about. And it's directed by James Rodriguez, which you might recognize that name if you're a fan of Psych, which has some great Halloween episodes in itself. But tonight we're talking about the 2015 film Gravy. And I believe it is his second feature film that he directed. He directed some episodes of Psych also. And Gravy is a film that I simply checked out because it takes place on Halloween and James Rodriguez directed it. And that was enough to get me in the seat. But I found myself having a really good time when I checked this film out. It's about a trio of people or guys who take a staff of a restaurant hostage and basically just tie them up, toy with them, and do some really disgusting, crazy stuff to them and just kind of have their way with the restaurant staff on one Halloween night. And so it's kind of a comedy horror film, and it's got some really outlandish moments, some really outlandish performances, but a great lead from a gentleman who I can't remember his name, but you'll definitely recognize him. It's got some great practical effects and some really just interesting set pieces that you may not expect, and a few funny cameos here and there as well. If you've never heard of a film called Gravy, check it out. It's absolutely worth watching. It's, again, a Halloween night, restaurant tied up, and just a bunch of disgusting antics, some great practical effects and gore. And, go support James Rodriguez. Also, maybe check out some Psych if you've never seen that. But yeah, 2015 film Gravy at number 9. At number 8 on the list is another film I've never heard anyone talk about. And it's a very, very underrated Halloween film starring a very young Jim Carrey. This film is called Once Bitten. It's from 1985. And it's about a vampire countess who needs to find the blood of a virgin in order to keep her eternal beauty on Halloween night. And young Jim Carrey plays that said virgin. This is a great 80s horror comedy with some definitely 80s moments, teenagers trying to, have sex and find prostitutes, some things that definitely are from the time period. But you've got a great young performance from Jim Carrey, plays a very different kind of character. You've got kind of like, imagine Fright Night, but it leans more into the 80s comedy charm and less of the practical effects and scares that Fright Night has. But this is just a really fun movie and some great performances across the board. And, just a great time to check out some 80s cheese and a really interesting Jim Carrey performance. If you've never heard of a film called Once Bitten, check it out. It's worth your time. I bought this on DVD years ago, let someone borrow it, and I never got it back. And I need to get it again. I don't even know if it ever had a Blu-ray release. I gotta look into that. 1985's Once Bitten. At number 7 is the 2019 film Haunt, which you may have heard of, but makes this list because even though some people have talked about it and definitely had its moment where it was on some lists and things like that, it's still a very underrated Halloween film that nobody talks about enough. And the reason is Haunt does something that no other haunted house or maze film does, in my opinion, that I have seen. There's quite a few different stories and different horror movies out there about some teens looking for an extreme haunt or extreme maze on Halloween night. But what Haunt does so well is it gives us a pretty interesting group of characters, maybe not the best, but interesting group of characters with a little bit of backstory. And it sends them into this pop-up haunt that genuinely feels like it's well constructed in a giant building that actually feels like they could get stuck in it. It's not flimsy walls and just spider webs thrown up or just some lights in a cheap building or something like that, where you feel like all of these people that are stuck in this haunt could just turn around and leave at any moment, maybe break down the wall or go through a window. Haunt really builds this grand construction and this maze that feels like it's cohesive enough and it makes sense that when the characters are going from one room into the next and they have to go through these things that are either scary or gross or bloody or whatever, it feels like they actually are diving deeper into this haunt and getting trapped and there's no way out. And then it also adds this nice little twist of these villains that are in there, but they're not prominent villains. The maze is really the main villain up until a certain point, and it's just the construction of it, the concept of it, the way it's built and designed, it feels real. It feels like you're really in there with them. It feels like a real location, a real building with solid walls. And I think that aspect of it just goes unappreciated. And like I said, there's so many of these films that try to do that. And sometimes I have to really suspend my disbelief to not think, they could just like break that down, go through there or turn around and go back, And so I think that, again, if you haven't seen Haunt, check it out. I do think that it does something better than all of these other films try to do. It pulls it off. And it just honestly is a really great Halloween watch. And so if you haven't seen it, check it out. And if you have, and you didn't really appreciate it, maybe give it another viewing. Go in really paying attention to all of the set design and all of the detail it's added into that maze. At number 6 is the criminally underrated claymation horror comedy from 2012, ParaNorman. And if you haven't seen ParaNorman and you like claymation, do yourself a favor and go check out ParaNorman right now. ParaNorman is about a misunderstood boy who doesn't quite get along with other kids and other people in the town and can see ghosts and witches and demons and dead dogs and can't quite figure out why he's so different until Halloween night, when this curse that has been placed on the town starts to bring some bad things into the town, and he kind of has to use his gifts to save the town from this curse that they sort of got themselves into years before. And his family doesn't really understand him, doesn't like him, and all of the other townspeople kind of make fun of him until, of course, this night when he has to, use his skills to save him. It's a really, really great lead character in ParaNorman. He's funny and likable. There's some great jokes in here, some great horror movie references that, actually some deep cuts that you might not pick up on right away. There's a great storyline with a great message about family and fitting in and doing the right thing, and amazing claymation, amazing set design, and just the Halloween vibes and atmosphere through this, as well as like the music is so good. It's highly recommend checking out ParaNorman if you haven't seen it. It's a great family friendly horror comedy claymation film. While it does have some dark moments in there, it could be a little intense for younger kids. It's a great film that you can check out with your whole family for the most part. And again, if you're into claymation and you like The Nightmare Before Christmas or Coraline, you absolutely should check out ParaNorman. It is well worth it. At number 5 is the 2007 indie horror comedy Murder Party. This is another one of those that you may have heard of or you may have seen on a few lists, but still is absolutely underrated, flies under the radar of most people. And the beauty of Murder Party for me personally is I remember a time when there wasn't a million lists exactly like the one I'm making right now. There wasn't a bunch of YouTube videos, and there wasn't a Letterboxd account, and you couldn't go just look for all these underrated horror films. So when you stumble upon a film like Murder Party and you watch it with your friends and you get this just great indie horror comedy with fantastic Halloween vibes and a great main character with an iconic costume that's been used in a movie recently that I can't remember, but the costume from the main guy in Murder Party was in something. Was it Scream 6? I think it was Scream 6. Someone in the party was dressed like him. That was a really awesome reference. Anyway, back to what I was saying. When you stumble upon a movie like this and it just has those fall vibes and it's got this great like gore and this crazy plot twist, but this like slow pacing with some comedy and some laughs, it's like you found this treasure and you want to share it with everyone. And now you can tell everyone online about it. but it loses a little bit of its magic. And Murder Party is best as this hidden gem, this little VHS or DVD movie that you find on the shelves and you and your friends watch. That's what Murder Party is. It's about a guy who's a little awkward and quirky and doesn't have anything to do on Halloween night except hang out with his cat. And he finds this invitation to a Halloween party on the ground and kind of decides whether he should go or not. Should he go crash someone else's Halloween party? So he makes himself a costume and decides to crash this Halloween party. But of course, if you can look at the title of this film, you might think that he got a little more than he bargained for with this party. And that's all I'm going to say about the film, except for the fact that it's very slowly paced, dry humor in the beginning, with some great just fall atmosphere and this just sort of washed out older film look to it that just works so perfectly for this style of film. And then towards the end, it goes a little bonkers in the best way. I think that there's some surprises in there that you just won't expect. Again, understand it's a very small, confined story. It's not going to go to some a crazy, obscure place, but it's a very small, confined story with some great set pieces and some crazy bonkers stuff towards the end. If you've never heard of this film called Murder Party, absolutely go check it out. Check out the cover. It's like an old VHS cover you would find in Blockbuster, and you want to pick it up. Didn't come out on VHS. It came out on DVD, but the cover just screams, that period, that hidden gem VHS that you found on the shelf and took home to watch with your friends. So again, just perfect Halloween time watch to kick off the season. If you've never heard of Murder Party, go check it out. At number 4 on my list is another film that I just can't understand why nobody talks about. It's such a fun comedy, light-hearted, family-friendly Halloween film. And I'm talking about the 2012 Nickelodeon-produced film Fun Size. I understand it's produced by Nickelodeon. It's made for teens, and there's definitely some cheesy stuff in there. Similar to Hubie Halloween, you're going to have to ignore a little bit of this stuff. It's not the same type of movie, but what you're getting in return is a small town story, teen comedy that takes place on Halloween with some really solid characters, some funny characters. The convenience store clerk is one of my favorite characters in a teen comedy of this nature in years. You've got this boy who doesn't speak, and he's struggling with this relationship with his sister after their father died. And the father really liked Halloween, and so they're kind of struggling with how to celebrate. The mom, being a single mom now, struggling with how to raise her teenage daughter and her son that won't speak. And then you've got this boy and his friend who, like the other girl, and they're trying to basically get her to understand that they exist and they're alive. And you just got a very lighthearted teen comedy, but it takes place on Halloween night. And it's got this really great orange look to it, this orange color. And again, I love these small town stories with houses that are decorated for Halloween, and these haunted houses that they go to at their school, and these events, and all those kind of things just really get me excited for the season. There's some, again, great character work in here, some great funny jokes. Got a really funny performance from Johnny Knoxville in here, some Beastie Boys reference, and a killer soundtrack that's going to really put you in this indie fall Halloween vibe. Some great laughs. Again, just a really, really fun movie. If you've never heard of the movie Fun Size, you should absolutely check it out. This is another one that's perfect to put on while you're carving pumpkins or while you're decorating, put on in the background. After you've watched it a few times, I think you'll really start to appreciate some of the humor and the laughs, and put it on in the background and just enjoy that soundtrack. And yeah, it's just, it's a really great movie that just gets me every year in the Halloween spirit. It's one of the first things I put on while I'm trying to decorate, and just kicks off the season for me. Fun Size from 2012. Getting into the top 3 now, we have a found footage film from 2015 that, despite being talked about, is still criminally underrated because it is a solid found footage film, as well as being a genuinely creepy and well done Halloween film. And that is the found footage film House LLC, the first one. this is a movie that I heard people talk about here and there, saw pop up on some lists here and there. It's just like a passing thing to check out. And then I watched it in the perfect situation. I had just had knee surgery, so I was kind of confined to the couch, and I was all alone leading up to Halloween. It was October like 20th or something like that. And I just was late at night, and my wife was asleep, and I put on House LLC, and it creeped the ever-loving crap out of me. If you turn off all the lights, turn up the sound, and you just really let this film do its job, it is super creepy atmosphere. This is one of those films where you are going to have to suspend your disbelief a little bit, kind of like I was talking about with the haunts and the mazes, because this is about a group of friends that create an LLC that basically set up haunted houses and mazes all over different areas, mostly in New York. And this is in kind of the outskirts of New York. And they don't have a lot of budget. So that works really well for this film, but it also starts off, you have to kind of suspend your disbelief a little bit when they're setting up the haunted house, because they keep talking about how they have limited budget, and it really shows. But then later in the film, with the solid performances, great use of sound design, and key plot pieces and set pieces that they use very, very well, that really shows that that lack of budget was put into very key and significant pieces. And they use them so effectively that if you just sit back and let the movie do its job, it's going to actually creep you out and linger with you long after you watch the film. Again, the sequel might be worth checking out. The third one, we're actually getting a fourth one here coming soon, which, funny enough, has some great reviews so far. I'm actually kind of excited for it. But if you've never seen the first House LLC, absolutely give it a check. Again, solid performances, really creepy atmosphere, creepy idea, cool story, and some key props and some makeup effects, really great use of sound design that are genuinely going to probably creep you out if you let it give its chance. And as well as kick off the Halloween season with, a movie about Halloween haunts. So again, Haunt from Hell House LLC from 2012. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Coming in at number 2 is another film I've never heard anyone talk about, and it's actually a documentary. This is a documentary from 2012, and it's a very personal film for me because it really resonates with me. This is one that may not resonate with everyone, although I still definitely recommend checking it out. I'll get into the reasons why. For me, it's number 2, underrated films, but this is a documentary called The American Scream. And this takes 3 different families, or 3 different households, I should say, and it kind of follows them along their journey during October as they decorate their houses and basically create home haunts and go over the top in all of their unique and individual ways. And so you've got 3 different households that celebrate differently. One is kind of like your DIY, found it at a garage sale, throw it out in the yard, don't pay attention to a theme or too much, just kind of really want to decorate their house, get into the spirit, and kind of see this character struggle with some health issues and some family stuff. And then you see another character who, couple of characters who are professionally like to entertain kids. They actually work as clowns. And so you see how they celebrate Halloween, and they kind of get into the spirit by really wanting to decorate their house and get trick-or-treaters to come and really entertain and celebrate this holiday through the eyes of like kids in their neighborhood. And then you've got this third gentleman who celebrates with his kids, and he's more the professional. He wants to do it professionally. He goes all out. He builds these props, builds this maze outside of his house, and people line up all down his street to go through his haunt, year after year. And so you've got these 3 different families, but something they all have in common is they all kind of give a lot to this holiday. And it's not just like just casual decorating. This is a passion for them one way or another, especially the guy who takes it very seriously. You see him lose sleep. He's not eating healthy. He's not taking care of himself. His family understands that it's kind of like up until October, it's all hands on deck, prepping and preparing for this one night. And then you get to see through his eyes, just like the celebrating of the work that he's done and the accomplishments that he has done in the town, and how they gather together and how they appreciate all the work he puts into the house. And so again, it's a documentary that may not resonate with everyone, but for me, especially years ago when I used to pull all-nighters, I used to stay up all night the night before Halloween and the night of Halloween, trying to decorate, trying to create like a maze of spider webs in my house and hanging out with friends, having a Halloween party. So for me, when I saw The American Scream, it was like, it spoke to me at the time that I saw it. I really felt like this is the only Halloween film I've ever seen that take this approach, that really connects with the people that give their all to the holiday. And whether it's professional or it's mediocre or it's low budget or whatever it is, it's really about the people behind it more than it is the holiday. It's not how they're enjoying it as much as the selflessness that they want to give to the town. Of course, obviously they're getting something from it too, but the trick-or-treaters, their kids, seeing Halloween through their kids' eyes, and the neighborhood kids, and making memories that will last a lifetime. And that's what this film does really, really, really well that I've never seen any other film do. So again, it's called The American Scream, and it might not be for everybody, but I highly recommend you check it out. They release this on Blu-ray every year around October for a very limited time. I was fortunate enough to pick up a copy, and I used to be on Amazon Prime. I don't know if it is anymore, but if you can find it, check it out. It's not only a great story, but it's also just a great thing to put on and get in the Halloween spirit, especially because you're just seeing like how amped up these people get for the holiday and how excited people are on Halloween night to line up outside these mazes and these haunts that were put on just by people, just everyday people that live in the neighborhood. And so again, highly, highly underrated documentary. If you've never heard of it, check it out. The American Scream. I highly recommend it. Time for number one, the number one most underrated Halloween film, and that is the 1999 film Idle Hands. Now, why is Idle Hands the number one most underrated Halloween film on my list? Because people have actually seen this film. People talk about this film, but for some reason, they don't take it seriously. It's like, I remember when someone first told me about Idle Hands. They told me, yeah, it's really funny. It's hilarious. It's got great gore, great acting, great performances from Seth Green. But, it's like, it's kind of a joke movie. It's almost like they were afraid to say they really enjoyed this film. And I don't see it on any list. I don't see people talk about it. I don't see people, give it serious attention. This is a great horror comedy with some great performances, hilarious jokes, a really early performance from Jessica Alba, a great cameo performance from The Offspring, in which the lead vocalist gets his face torn off, some amazing practical gore effects, some great set design, a Halloween party to cap off the movie, and some just bonkers stuff happening at the end. It's got genuinely a really interesting story, and it starts off when this guy hasn't seen his parents in a while and there's this killer on the loose. It actually builds a little bit of tension. It's got this really cool Halloween atmosphere, and like I said, and I've said so many times, when you get these houses that decorate with genuinely good decorations and these neighborhoods with trick-or-treaters and things like that, people that getting into the holiday spirit, that really gets me into the holiday spirit. So I love to see that. And Idle Hands is a horror comedy for sure. And it goes to some crazy, insane places toward the end. But in the beginning, it starts off kind of slow and really builds this character and builds a little bit of like suspense and tension. a little bit of a mystery. And yeah, of course, the idea is insane, but it genuinely is a cool, fun Halloween time film with, again, some great performances from Seth Green. And I can't remember the other actors, but the guy from Final Destination, and then the other guy, what is his name? What is he from? You definitely would recognize him. Some great horror movie references in here. And again, towards the end, you've got this Halloween party with just some crazy gore and just this movie that goes to some extreme places, super hilarious. If you've never actually seen Idle Hands, you absolutely should check it out. And if you have seen it, watch it again. I don't understand why this is a good Halloween film. Super entertaining, and it needs to be on more lists. Still super underrated. Even though people have heard of this film, it's incredibly underrated. And again, I know I'm just hammering the point home, but if you've never seen it, check it out. And if you have seen it, why aren't you talking about it? Go watch it again.
Is there someone in our house? The key won't work. I can't get the door open.
Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, everyone. Sounds like it's time for me to go. Hope you're all having an amazing October.
Police.
And happy Halloween.
Oh my God!